Good afternoon, everyone. Let us now sit for our meditation session. Taking a deep breath in gently, coming into a meditating position, your feet in front of you, stable on the ground, your hands resting on your lap. Deep breath in, breathing out, relaxing as you close your eyes gently. Guiding your attention to be aware of the body from head to toe. Relaxing, relaxing. Gently, gently, gently. Guiding your attention to observe the different sensations arising all throughout the body, all throughout the body. Putting aside the past, the future, and being within the present at all times. Gently, starting from the topmost part of the head. Let us observe the sensations as they arise and pass. Arise and pass. With every moment, every phenomenon that arises. Sensations. In constant motion. Arising and passing, hence nothing to cling to. Simply observe. Simply observe. Simply observe. Topmost part of the head, all the sensations arising and passing, all across the topmost part of the head. Observe without any form of attachment or clinging. Observe. From the head, guiding your attention to the face. Observe the sensations all across the face. All across the face. From the face, down to the neck, and through the neck to the shoulders. Observe. Observe. From the neck, let us guide our attention to the whole mid area of the body. From the shoulders, the arms down to the hands, the chest, the abdomen. Observe the different sensations from moment to moment, arising and passing, being within this present moment. Observe, observe, observe. Gently observe, being within the present. Observe. observing, observing. Any distractions that might appear in the mind. Simply bringing it back to observe the sensations, being mindful of the posture, being resolute within the present. Let us gently guide our attention from the mid area of the body to now below the waist, the thighs, the legs, the feet. Observe all the sensations arising all across, all across. Gently guide your attention as you observe the sensation. Let us now see the cause and effect that arises as the sensations arise. Would there be a reaction of mind, of body, of clinging, of friction? Observe the cause and effect, moment to moment, ever changing, with the arising of causes, conditions, the effects arising. In a continuous cycle of cause and effect. Observe, observe, observe. Gently. Let us now guide our attention to the whole body from head to toe. Observing the body as a collection of many different attributes. Sensations arising and passing, arising and passing. Taking a deep breath in, gently, gently. Taking a deep breath in, breathing out, relaxing, relaxing, relaxing. Another deep breath in, breathing out, relaxing. Breathing out, relaxing. And gently, when you are ready, opening your eyes and awakening into the present. Sad, sad, sad. All right, everyone. So, let us carry on from where we left off in the morning session, which will form the basis and the talk itself for the afternoon. Right. So if you do have any questions, you're most welcome to address them. And any doubts or whatever it is that you have in your mind with regards to what is discussed, please feel free to address. Yes, Damsari.
Bhante, when you say your definition consciousness, vijnana,
Yeah.
It's subconsciousness, right? Because according to the Theravada, um, Theravada scholars very reluctant to admit that there's something called subconscious mind.
Mm.
But in Mahayana, it explained as a different, slightly different name called Alaya.
Mm.
So can you explain us just a little bit more um, about this definition on subconscious
Sure.
or vinyana as a subconscious mind?
Right. Thank you, Damsari, for that question. And I was waiting. I was waiting. I was waiting. Lovely. Okay. So subconscious here, right? Subconscious here is taken from the fact of it is a bit different to what the inception of Alaya is, right? In Mahayana,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
In Mahayana, they infer or they teach uh, a sort of another stream of energy that travels beyond the shallow or the energy that we see or the interpretations that we see on the surface, right?
Yeah,
However,
yeah.
in Theravada Buddhism, the way that we approach the subject is quite different. Here, the subconscious mind is relating to the because of the karmic consciousness and the formation of self, right? That is done by the rest of these processes from the sense consciousness up to karmic consciousness, right? This subconscious refers to the formulation, the bringing together, that which is
Mhm.
held on together, which creates this subconscious self. It is not to say that it is another energy. This is
Okay.
more like the anusaya, right, which lies dormant, the latent tendencies which lies dormant. But it is not simply a kilesha here. It is not the anusaya per se, but it is like the anusaya which lays dormant. That's fabricated self that is formed out of the data that is pursued or assumed rather from sense consciousness, affective consciousness, perceptive consciousness, and then lathered like a growing sort of shrub on a or a tumor that grows, or the karmic formations that adds on to, that is all sort of held on at what this consciousness refers to, right? That consciousness, because of the energy that it holds, right? That is why that consciousness forms, or its function is a patisandhi process, right? The bhavanga process, right? And the death process, right? So Patisandhi, the death just simply comes, right? So the Patisandhi, Bhavanga processes are inferred here because that is where that karmic tie is held. What do we mean by that karmic tie? Sorry. What is meant by that karmic tie? That karmic tie is meant to be, the karmic tie is meant to be consciousness is pivoted, right? If we have one middle point, we have the energies, right? If I am to draw, we have these three energies. One, let us say first, consciousness. Two, anusaya. Three, kamma, right? Three kamma. This kamma in yellow is tied to this sankhara formation here, right? But please do not misunderstand to think that it is the same thing. It is not the same thing, right? Think of it as the karmic energies through our actions, the karmic energies that we cultivate, and hence because of those karmic energies, we bring about conditions for similar karmas to now arise from the continuum of karmas or the storage of karmas that we have. Is that clear? We have a storage of karmas, but that storage of karma is almost infinite in nature because of our past life tendencies and everything that has happened over, right? That karma here is tied to these sankharas that we form in this life. Now, if we remember, please, anyone, if you don't understand, please ask. I'm more than happy to explain multiple times. It doesn't matter. Remember, in the mind do process, or even in a five sense do process, the first javana chitta impulsion gives rise, its result gives rise immediately in this life. Remember, right? The first javana gives result in this life. That javana is quite important in this case. Why? Because our actions leads to the life that we lead, right? That inference is between this sankhara that we see here and this karma here. This karma affects both the anusaya and the consciousness. This consciousness, now, sorry, wrong color. This consciousness, because it is affected by both the karma and the anusaya as well, is now in mutual dependency upon one another. When we now get rid of the karma of it or lower the karma of it through taking up of discipline, sila, through resorting to different patterns and mechanisms of thought that does not culminate in the arising of further proliferated suffering, right? Such kind of states, even for example, in old Sri Lankan culture or Asian culture, we believe when people become monks, that it cuts off their sort of bad karmas. True enough, to a certain extent, not entirely, but to a certain extent, it is true, because when you do become a monk, you leave so much from your old life behind, resort to a new name, resort to a new identity, resort to a wholly different set of values and practices, if done properly, right? That energy now, it simply shifts the karmic energy that you have previously abiding by or you had subscribed to. It literally shifts. Why? Because now your consciousness and your anusaya is working at a different level now. Right? Now, if you are to say a monk, right, you don't drink, you don't do drugs, you're celibate, you don't lie, you don't kill, you don't steal. Just imagine when you remove all of those akusalas or unwholesome states away, when you take away all of that potential, what happens? Your life literally shifts, but your life just doesn't physically shift, it mentally shifts. Literally, the way that you think shifts. And that is actually, I remember, it's a very, very weird experience. It's very weird, right? Because literally overnight, over an hour or two into your ordination ceremony, you realize how the way that you think, the way, if you're really doing it for the right reasons, the way that it truly shifts, right? But before we go deeper into this, let's approach this in a different way. So I'm going to erase all of this, okay? Again, everyone, if you have any questions, ask. Does anyone have any questions with what we shared just now? Okay.
just one
Yes,
thing.
Samantha. Yes.
Sorry, just a quick question.
No
I won't
worries.
disturb your flow. I was just thinking, like, um, so is the like I was just looking at the the Paticca Samuppada thing. So when you have the consciousness there linking to the Nama Rupa, the next step. So the consciousness there, are you liking that to the Anusaya? Because Buddha never talked about a subconscious, I don't think. So would that be the similar to the, so you got the sankhara, which is the karma causing the consciousness, the anusaya, I suppose. Then you've got that link into the nama rupa, and within the nama rupa, the nama is also a consciousness. So you've got the two consciousness depending on each other, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Is
You know
that
what?
something?
You know what? I think this word is causing us a lot of grief. Let me let me unceremoniously remove it. Right. Let's call it the continuum. Right. Let's call it the continuum. Okay.
Oh, is that the same as anusaya then? Sorry. Mm.
Oh, Samantha. No. Hold on. Let me just right. Let's call it the continuum. Right. Continuum. Right. Because this is literally the Bhavanga process and the Patisandhi process. Right. I understand where the complication with the word subconscious might come from. So this is not Anusaya, but I said it is like Anusaya. Because remember, Samantha, in the Abhidhamma, when we studied it, after a so after any conscious stream arises the Bhavanga, isn't it? It kind
Yeah.
of goes into the consciousness that you were originally born with, but you are not aware of this consciousness, but it is in a dormant like state up until another process follows. That is what is referred to as the continuum here. Okay.
Lovely. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when during the moment of death, right, during the moment of death, because the consciousness becomes weak, not for everyone, but most of us, it becomes quite weak. But the end of the Chuti process is always weak, right? When that process happens, the new Patisandhi Chitta, right, the rebirth consciousness, takes reign, cutting off our connection to this body and reappearing in a state conducive to its flow. Conducive to its flow. So for now, take it as, not for now, it is continuum, right? As opposed to subconscious, just so that we avoid any conflict of thought there. Okay. Now,
is that the same as the consciousness in that Paticca Samuppada thing that they're talking about before Nama Ruma, after Sankhara?
So this is okay. So this Samantha specifically, this is like avidya pacha sankhara.
Yeah, and then
I know.
Sankhara Paticca conscious vijnana.
No. This is more avidya pacha sankhara rather than sankhara pacha vijnana, right? And I will explain why that is, right?
Okay, lovely.
I will
And then the
explain
Nama.
why that is. That is because within this consciousness, right now, rebirth, continuum. Now, let's take the word continuum. This is like, when you say continuum, if we just take the word itself, in a continuum, its main function is to continue. Correct? I mean, right?
Yeah.
In a continuum, it's called a continuum because it continues, right? Its main function is to continue, right? And that is what rebirth and the Bhavanga is initially. It holds on to this sort of tanha gati, right? Tanha gati. Tanha gati. I'm sorry about my handwriting, nothing to do. Let me just write it again. Tanha gati. Okay. Tanha, gati. Right? Tanha gati. Tanha gati is the nature of the mind to continuously cling. Right? Because of the nature of the mind to continuously cling, that is why when we see form, what do? When we see feeling, perception, formations, and consciousness itself, it clings. Right? Clings, forming the I. That is a tanhagati. That is why Vijnana falls under avidya, pacha, sankhara. As I mentioned in the morning session, these five, the way that it has been drawn out, it represents the whole of the cycles or all the factors of the dependent origination, but within the scope of the five aggregates of clinging. Within the scope of the five aggregates of clinging. Does that make sense, Samantha?
Yes, Bhante. Yeah.
Right.
And also the consciousness need an object, isn't it? Always.
The consciousness needs an object. That is the gati.
Yeah.
That itself, Samantha. The fact that the consciousness needs the object is the gati. That is why a arahant is not reborn, because he doesn't cling on to the need to become or be or relive or any of those things which puts him back into the realm of samsara. In whatever realm that he simply, that his consciousness has no tanha gati.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you, Bhante Sadhu.
Because, are you definitely sure, Samantha?
Yes, I'm going to obviously learn it again.
Sure.
But
If you have more questions, ask. Yes.
Thank you, Bhante.
Dil?
Bhante, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
You know, I recently met Ajahn Suchitto, and he has written this book called Breathing Like a Buddha. And I think he was referring to this, what you're now referring to first as subconscious and now as continuum. He calls it, it's a form of energy, and he calls it the subtle body. That energy that is, you know, it's like an awareness, but not exactly the awareness. But he was explaining this process in different terms, but I think he calls this the subtle body, because the same concept, it doesn't matter because others wouldn't have read the book and they wouldn't know. But I think I'm getting the concept that what you're saying, because he was explaining it just like it's a form of energy, isn't it?
As everything
what
is.
You're referring to
as
everything is.
Everything
Right.
is
Yes,
form
thing
of
is,
energy.
yes. Yes, right. But I think he was referring to this continuum, particularly this feature of that when, see, we are always thinking of, most people live in their minds, if you're not practicing at all. But actually, that in that Anapanasati Sutta, when you're told to feel the kaya, something for the body, and everybody thinks it's a body, but it's the body of the breath that it was. And so he was referring from, and he refers it to as this subtle body, this form of energy. Doesn't matter, Bhante. I think
So let
I
me
understand.
explain it. Now,
Yes.
there is a sutra, right, which relates to this term. In it has four definitions, right? The consciousness, the pre-consciousness, the subconsciousness, the consciousness, the unconscious, right? Now, let's put all of that together, right? What is it referring to? Bhavanga, Patisandhi process, right? And when we look at what we have already covered, the sense consciousness takes form. Feeling is taken by the affective consciousness. Perception is done by the perceptive consciousness. Karmic formation is done by the karmic consciousness, which has intention behind it to fuel it. Right? Here in the continuum, we are not aware of the continuum process. The bhavanga is something that we are not aware of. We can feel it, but we are effectively not aware of it, right? So when we put the four words there, the unconscious, for example, it's referring to where the mind is specifically within a state of being, right? Now, in this case, the Patisandhi consciousness that we died with in the previous birth, right? Patisandhi consciousness that we died with in the previous birth. So we are in a raw state of consciousness, which is effectively not taking in an object. Do you understand? Which is not taking an object at that point, right? Is that clear? Because it is not taking an object, it doesn't fit into sense consciousness, affective consciousness, perceptive consciousness, or karmic consciousness. Does that make more sense?
Is that the same as
Yeah.
you're sleeping?
Sorry?
Is that the same as when you're sleeping?
So when you're in deep sleep, you enter into the bhavanga. So yes.
Okay.
Deep sleep, Samantha. Deep sleep. If you're in the bhavanga, you will feel absolutely nothing at all, not even a dream. You will sleep and you will get up as if just a minute has passed, but 8 hours have passed. That kind of sleep. Okay? Right. Now, coming into in the when all right, any questions? No. Right. When we refer to now coming into the just, you can still see my screen, yes? Okay. Now, when we come into, or when we learn, when we are venturing into Buddhism, we come across the term in the Noble Truths, right? In the Noble Truths. Pancha Upadanak Khanda Pancha Upadana Khanda Dukkha. Dukkha. Right? Pancha Upadana Khanda Dukkha. Now, of course, as we know, I do not need to tell you, Pancha, 5, Upadanak is Upadana, clinging. Khanda is the aggregates, suffering. Dukkha is suffering. Right? The five aggregates of clinging is suffering. Now, what does this mean? Now, I'm speaking in terms of meditation here, leading specifically to the Sotapanna path. I'm not speaking of anything above that, right? This is speaking directly in consideration of the Sotapatti Marga Phala, the first stage of enlightenment. When we say Panchupadanakhanda Dukkha, right, the 5 aggregates of clinging is suffering, right? This is the notion or attribute that the practitioner first takes into consideration, or rather embraces, when it comes to the attainment of the Sotapatti Magga and Phala. Right? Sotapatti Magga and Phala. This is done, or the understanding of this is founded upon 4 positions. 4 positions. Anyone who wants me to explain again, please. I'm telling you again and again. I understand that sometimes we might just go above and beyond. So please feel free to bring us back, right? The first one is the understanding, and the ability to differentiate between the 5 aggregates. The 5 aggregates. The second one is now you've understood what the 5 aggregates are. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana, right? The 5 aggregates are these 5 here. Now you've understood with this falls under what? Samma Ditti. Right? This falls under Samma Ditti. The second one is Pancha Upadana. Now we've understood the 5 aggregates. The second is what? The craving that arises towards the 5 aggregates. How we cling on to the 5 aggregates is a second, right? Is a second. Now, this is directly from the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra, okay? Nowhere else. We are going for the principal sutras here, right? Nowhere else. The third is what? The third is coming down to what we learned in the morning. What did we learn in the morning? The 5 aggregates right on top here, everyone. They are perceived through consciousness. The 5 black in the middle, right? Now, what is that? This is done by who? Is it done by the external object? It's done here within my mind and matter, right? So, let me just delete that. So, the third one is what? The third one is the understanding, not through concept, understanding, embracing, wholehearted, knowing that the 5 aggregates are mental impressions. Is that clear? 5 aggregates are mental impressions. Right? Mental impressions. So what are we now breaking down? We are breaking down the Atma, or the clinging that we have towards that world that places the world in important stature, right? Realizing that these 5 aggregates that I'm holding on to, seeing, feeling, and relishing and embellishing in are mental constructs, mental impressions, mental impingements, right? All done by meditation. Now at this stage, it's done by meditation. Then the fourth one, everyone, is, according to Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra, these mental impressions that we have now come to realize, right? These mental impressions that we come to realize now, those mental impressions leads to mental impressions leads to suffering. Suffering. But not just suffering. The Buddha in the Dhammacakkappavattana, he says, dukkha, dukkha. Dukkha, dukkha, it's a repetitive. Dukkha, dukkha refers not to present suffering, refers to future suffering. Future suffering. Is that clear? Refers to future suffering. Okay?
Sorry, Bhante, can you just expand on that? The difference between the present suffering and the future?
Will do. So, present moment, when we are in still stages of awareness, Samantha, right? At all. When we are in still stages, the suffering that we see within the present, yes, my iPad is low. Thank you, Samantha, for pointing out that my iPad is on low battery. Yes. Okay. Now, what the Buddha says is, now we have a process, Samantha, of viraga that is important. Viraga. This viraga, to be effective, what are we letting go of? We are letting go of bhava, jati, the constant need of existence. That bhava and jati, where is it going to happen? It's going to continuously happen in the future. Again, just as we have been doing so in the past. The continuation of this suffering again and again and again and again and again. The viraga here, that is to which this dukkha is taken. The meditator contemplates, if I am not to gain freedom from this cycle of sankharas and clinging towards the five aggregates, which I have so blindly followed and craved for and clung to and associated self to, the suffering which follows in the future is going to be great, thus inspiring and fueling their present moment practice. This is for viraga. Do you understand? This is for viraga. Does that
Is
make
that viraga?
Viraga is
Dispassion.
dispassion.
Dispassion. Thank you, Bhante.
Viraga. Raga is the lusting for. Viraga is the opposite of that. Right. So iPad Pro is asking us, is Arahant stage reached when the link is broken by destroying clinging? For example, a Arahant will taste but not cling to the taste as we do. Is the Arahant stage reached when the link is broken by destroying clinging? Yes. Yes. The Arahant stage is, of course, it sounds quite simple when you just put it like that. It sounds very simple when you put it by there, but at the end of the day, yes, the link of clinging is absolutely, rooted out, right? Removed by the Arhata Magga and Phala, right? Now, is that clear, Samantha?
Yes, thank you, Bhante.
All
That's
right.
explained. Thank you.
Okay. Now, please, everyone, I do not expect all of you to agree with what I'm saying. I would very much like if you disagree, because I would also then be able to dig deeper. We are all on a learning journey process towards enlightenment. So, and we do not have those teacher insecurities as well. So we are good, right? So if you do want to say something, please do, right? We are all learning. Now, when it comes to now, this is the path as spoken of in the Dhammacakka Pavattana, right? So here the mental impressions we have formed here. So as we meditate, and even with, you will realize when you feel a bit lazy or when you feel a bit sleepy, right? When you feel a bit tired, when the mind strikes a balance, you will realize even you assume, you think you're tired, so you are tired, isn't it? Right? You assume a sense of grogginess, even if that is even a word. You assume this emotion of feeling of being lazy or cold and just want to be in bed. So you think that is true for yourself. It is not. You will realize when you hit that balance, when you spread your samadhi, and then anything that arises, whatever, even if it is, you're tired, you're so tired, right? Yet, when the mind is ardent, when the mind knows what it wants, when the mind is on a journey and you want to do whatever it takes for that journey, you realize even that laziness that you sort of would feel, or the tired feeling that you would feel, that it arises and passes. Do you understand? That is clearly visible. So do not think that just because you feel emotional, or just because you think that you are feeling lazy, or whatever else that you might be feeling throughout your meditation, the moment the mind becomes resolute in what it wants, then you have a strong ability to even observe the rise and fall of those emotions or experiences. Do you understand? Right? Sometimes, even when you're angry, even when you're angry, go into a bit of meditation, observe. And when you start observing, you realize anger has arisen. Now you're burning inside. Now that fades away. But now the mind, the anger, now you understand that you're being foolish and stupid, right? But having faded, there's a part of your mind that still wants to hold on to it because you don't want to look even more foolish. So it makes sense if you hold on to it a little bit longer, right? And it's so funny. And it's a good way to laugh at ourselves, not in a way of humiliating ourselves, but the childish way that the hindrances occur. Right? Sometimes as clear as day, as the sun and the moon, that there is nothing here, but the mind to assume that it is in me believing and continuing to roll out what I first thought was true is my only way to persevere with my ego. And that is exactly what you learn to drop. That is exactly what you learn to drop. Right? Now, let's go deeper. Let's go deeper. Okay. Now, when we say, you can still see my screen, yeah? When we say, draw a line, oh. Can't remember. Oh. Let me just draw a line. Okay. Right. Now, focus everyone. Now, when we say we experience a sense of this path is not only pain, right? There is pain. Let's be honest. There is a bit of pain. There is a bit of suffering, uphill. If you're trying to climb a steep mountain, there's a bit of effort that you need to put in and perseverance. Yes, everything good and everything great has the same struggle. So there is a bit of struggle. However, do not lose focus. Right? Do not lose focus. That is most important. And how do we not lose focus? And why should we not lose focus? Because the moment you lose your focus, you are unable to enjoy the niramisa sukha of the path. What's the English translation for niramisa sukha? Does anyone remember? Anyone? Niramisa sukha? Niramisa. Can someone put it on the chat? Okay, Niramisa Sukha. We'll get the translation from someone. It's not supramundane or happiness. Niramisa.
Is it unconditioned? Unconditioned happiness.
Niramisa. Shiroma? Is Shiroma here? No, she's not, I think. Google it for me, someone. Okay, Niramisa Sukha. So this is a spiritual sense of Sukha, happiness that comes from the path, right? Niramisa. Blissful. Yes, blissful. Blissful is a niramisa is where it is not burdened or harmed, or it's a beautiful innocent, not innocent, but it's a beautiful sense of blissful happiness that you gain. And you might assume that you've experienced this without meditation. No, you haven't. No, you haven't. You haven't experienced this without meditating. This is a sense of, it is almost as if touching the air, but you cannot touch the air. You get what I mean? It's very difficult to sort of put into words what that feeling is. But let's try to understand it as we go along, right? Now, in Niramisa Sukha, we have We are starting the path, right? I'm going to try to draw Sakutagami, Anagami, Arhat, right? Now, at one point, now this red bit here, everyone, this red bit here, that is our enemy, foolishness. Adherence to rites and rituals, adherence to things that we do just to make ourselves feel good, but we really don't know why we are doing it. Adherence to cultures and traditions without any meaning to it. Adherence to patterns of thought and behaviors without any true meaning to it, or knowledge, all of these things, right? Now, Miccha Ditti, when Miccha Ditti is present, right? When Miccha Ditti is present, you have no Niramisa Sukha. You don't have that bliss, right? You don't have that bliss. That spiritual sense of bliss, it's not there. It is when you come into realization through Dhammic contemplation, through the suppression of your hindrances, the gross hindrances that keeps you from tapping into a higher sense of self, that you come to then realize what, right? You come to now stop the miccha, the wrong views in your life, the hard, the gross, the concrete, the rocks, the views that you do not want to change, right? Where you hold on to with your dear life. That kind of aggressive, gross views, you dump. You get rid of it, right? That happens, right? That happens through exposure. This point here happens with exposure to Buddha, to the teachings. So Buddha Dhamma Sangha, Buddha Dhamma Sangha, BDS. Bodhu, not Bodhu Bala Sena, okay? Oh my God. Buddha Dhamma Sangha. I'm going to rewrite that. Right. Buddha Dhamma Sangha. Right. Buddha Dhamma Sangha. Now, at that point, everyone, your Miccha Ditti stops. Now that really, everyone, focus, think about it. If we are in the Buddha Dhamma, I mean, we are talking about the spiritual path here, the path towards enlightenment. If we are we holding on to, can we say Buddha Dhamma Sangha? I have this fearless sense of faith and following and all of that to the Buddha Dhamma and the Sangha. And then I'm holding on to rites and rituals and all of these things that I don't know why I'm doing it, but I'm doing it just because I'm Sri Lankan or I'm British or I'm Russian or I'm all of these things, right? Now see, it does not happen. It does not happen. You are deluded if you think that you are going to hold on to rites and rituals and then embrace Buddha Dhamma Sangha at the same time. It's not going to happen, everyone. Right? It's false. You're deluded. Right? So wake up. Right? In order to progress in the Buddha Dhamma and the Sangha, to truly embrace it for enlightenment, right? Of course, if you're talking about being a good person and all of these things, it's a different story, but we're not talking about that. We're not concerned about that today. We're talking about enlightenment, okay? So this exposure to the Buddha Dhamma and Sangha, the embracing of it, stops the Miccha Ditti, from which this blue line that starts from there is what? Mundane Samma Ditti. Mundane Samma Ditti. Mundane Samma Ditti. So Samma Ditti is right view, right? Right view. Mundane Samma Ditti. Now, what is mundane Samma Ditti? Knowing right from wrong. knowing right from wrong. Now, knowing right from wrong does not mean that you're clinging on to anything. That ditti that you need to cling on to, that's not there. This is a very light. It's something that inspires liberation. That hardness and grossness to do with holding on to your views is not here anymore. This is mundane samadhi. It's like you're gliding in the air now. Do you get what I mean? Right? Mundane samadhi. With the practice, with knowledge of Dhamma, that will happen, everyone. But knowledge of Dhamma has to always be founded with the practice. Right? Founded with the practice, or else it's difficult to experience this. When that happens, now this blue line extends mundane samadhi, and at one point, what happens? When you cross over from the mundane samadhi into the lokottara samadhi, the supramundane samadhi, which now you have unbreakable faith in the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, because you practice it, you know it for sure that this is true. Not because the Buddha says so, not because the Sangha says so, not because anyone else says so, because you have with experience, you have experienced the fruit of the Dhamma, the happiness that follows leading a Dhammic life, right? That is where what happens, everyone. That is where Lokottara Samadhi. This is Lokottara Samadhi, right will. Right? This only extends with prajna. Right? This only extends. How do we know that it only extends with prajna? Because in the Eightfold Noble Path, which part do you attain Nibbana? Samma Ditti, Samma Sankappa, right view and right thought. The first two. But what happens is you start with the first. I know I'm going to come there. So just hold on to that. Right? You start with I'm going to come there. Right. So now it shifts on to Lokottara Samadhi. Now, when that happens, you grow, Sotapanna. Sotapanna. Then Sakadagami. Anagami. And here Arahat. And Arhat, right? Formal meditation practice up until this last bit here, right? Formal meditation practice is required. For that last bit, formal meditation practice is required, right? Mind you that this line here is starting a little bit before the Sotapanna, right? Most of this is dependent upon your understanding, your embracing, your life changes, your right livelihood, your effort, your sila, all of that, right? But the thing is, in this day and time where we have all these hindrances of mind, you might need meditation far before in order to suppress the hindrances to a level where you can actually let go and practice nekkhamma. Is that clear, everyone? To renounce anger, to renounce lust, to renounce all of these other things that we feel are important in our life, which might be, of course, important. But the thing is it important to an extent where you go to hell for it? Right? Is your neighbor and the gardening machine so important that you hate it so much that you are prepared to get what I mean? That's it. Right, Samantha? Yes. Please go ahead.
So at this, I was going to say, so when you reach, at which stage do you have to have suppressed the 5 hindrances before getting to the Sotapanna stage? And also, you have to those 3 taints, isn't it? The view of self has to be eradicated, and then the sila, the moral, the worshipping and all that has to be gone. And the third one, I can't remember the third.
Doubt.
Yeah, vicikiccha, that has to be eradicated. So what stage do all those 3 come into it? Thank you, dear.
All those 3, the 3 that we see as hindrances that are eradicated at the attainment of Sotapanna, Magga and Phala, are results of Sotapanna, Magga, Phala, Chitta. Right?
Okay.
Just imagine, Samantha, you have a container with holes for the marbles. You have marbles and you have a container. There are 9 marbles, and you have to put the marbles, let's say it's like a marble holder, right? And you have the 9 marbles, and the container has 9 sort of spots for the marbles, right? So you collected the 9 marbles, right? And you have to put it down into the container and shake it around, and everything will fall into place, right? So that is everything falling into place at that moment. That is the Magga, Phala, Chitta. So we do not focus on Silabhata Paramasa. We do not focus on Sakkaya Ditthi. We don't focus on any of that per se. What our focus is simply practicing and embracing the Dhamma. When we realize, right, I'm going to come into this. I'm not going to continue because I will be offering a better foundation for this. Now, so I'm going to stop right there, Samantha, right? Here, something else that happens at this point right here, right? At that point right here is the removal. This removes niyata mithya ditti. Mithya ditti. The potential of you becoming a mithya dittika ever, right? Which goes against the Dhamma at all. You get rid of it because you come to fully see, you come to fully experience and see the value, the truth in the Dhamma through practice, right? Through practice. Is that clear, everyone? Is that clear? Right? Now, when it comes to, right? When it comes to now what we have discussed, right? These four that we have discussed, it comes into the Sotapanna, Magga, Phala, right? This is a direct pathway into Sotapanna, Magga and Phala. But I feel like this is kind of like the best definition or way of breaking down the 4 noble truths. Think about it. Look at that. The 5 aggregates, right? Craving, right? The 5 aggregates being mental impressions. And now the mental impressions leading to suffering, the way leading to the cessation, right? The way leading to the cessation. So now these parts that we experience in the path, in all of these parts, as we meditate, what do we do? In realizing the 5 aggregates as they are, the hold that the 5 aggregates have upon our world, our realm of living, reduces. When we learn that the 5 aggregates, when we cling on to it, that is when we associate ourselves with the 5 aggregates, it further loosens. When we realize that these 5 aggregates are mental impressions, further loosens up. Now, when your Vedanānupassana bhavana or your Ānāpānasati bhavana, right, the sensations that appeared, everyone, did they not arise and pass away? They did. Right? They did arise and pass away. When you had moments of samadhi, didn't all the sensations cease to exist at one point? It did, right? When you were deep in samadhi, did you Did you not see the body? Yes, you didn't see the body, right? Now, all of these things, what do you see? When the mind is focused and still upon a certain point, the rest disappears, right? Coming down to this gatha that we've heard, the first, mano pubbhangama dhamma, mano sekta manomaya, right? Mental impressions. These mental impressions, owing to the quality, the clarity of mind, the power of mind, it changes our realm and world as we know it, right? It changes our realm and world as we know it. That is important to note. You have that power, right? Now, holding through our meditation experience, now let us go a little bit more deeper, right? Let us go a little bit more deep, everyone, right? Now, let's recap before we go. We had the 5 aggregates. The 5 aggregates have different consciousnesses, which presumes the different functions to cognize and work with the different 5 aggregates where clinging arises to form self. The Panchupadanaskandha, the 5 aggregates of clinging, is suffering. This itself becomes a meditation path, which is first to see the 5 aggregates as they are, knowing them as they are, the 5 aggregates, not the 5 aggregates of clinging. The second of which is seeing the 5 aggregates, the clinging in the 5 aggregates of clinging to the 5 aggregates. The third is understanding and knowing that the 5 aggregates are actually mental impressions, right? Which is this part here, which is this part here, right? Which is that part there. And then the fourth is the mental impressions that I have created. The sankharas that I have created is what is causing my suffering, right? Which is not to say, please do not take it in a manner where you would assume that we are condoning the idea that it is all my fault, right? We are not saying so. It is not saying that it's all, my fault. It's not. What we are saying is cause and condition. We will get there, right? Just a recap. Then we came into this where we have to stop with the Miccha Ditti. And then how do we stop with the Miccha Ditti? By truly embracing the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Sangha, the teachings, the Dhamma per se, right? And with it, with what we do in terms of morality, sila practices, morality practices, samadhi, and prajna, what do we come to experience? We come to experience niramisa sukha, the happiness of being in the path. But you do not experience happiness in being in the path without awareness. Sati has to be there, right? If you're just doing stuff just for the sake of doing it, maybe you're living a very good you're a good person, but okay, but where is the sati? Because if the sati is not there, how are you going to now cultivate the energy required and necessary to go up and beyond the mundane world into the supramundane, right? That niramisa sukha is experienced by taking true bliss of, let us say, you have led a life where you do not have enemies. Let us say that is a bliss, right? In embracing that truth about yourself, that you do not have enemies. I'm not talking about the deluded ones who actually do have a lot of enemies, but they think that they don't have a lot of enemies, but everyone that is around them is enemies. Not that kind of situation, right? I'm talking about I'm talking about true awareness over the fact of the good that you're doing, the sila, everything, the motions that you're making in the practice. Thus, eradicating Miccha Ditti and the potential of Niyata Miccha Ditti arising in the future, right? This starts with when Miccha Ditti or wrong view is left behind, mundane Samma Ditti is what we embrace through right view, knowing from what is right and wrong, through which we develop with meditation, sila, developing up until Sotapanna, right? Up until Sotapanna, and then continuing along the path. Formal meditation practice is required and a necessary component of the practice. That is the recap. Now, the Sotapanna path, when we come to the Sotapanna path, The Sotapanna path can be broken down into that same 4 that we did, right? This same 4, let us break it down into our realm of experience in meditation. Right? Our realm of experience in meditation. The first is through awareness, coming to understand that these are causes and conditions, cause and effect, or conditions. Sorry. Right. Cause and effect. Right. This cause and effect, through meditation we learn. If we have a certain way that we react, let us say to a sensation or a perception, cause and effect, you can see, right? Now, because of a certain sensation, you're feeling agitated, cause and effect, right? That sense of, let us say, that sort of irritation in the body, or that hardness in the body is because of the temperature around you, right? Or because you're sweating, or because you're very cold, or you're not wearing any layers, cause and effect. Breaking down. Now we initially think, oh, I'm feeling cold. No? But now what are we assuming, or how are we seeing it as? Cause and effect. Because of the Uttu around us, I am feeling cold. Because of the Uttu around us, there is a cold sensation. The cold sensation is making my body harder. Because my body is harder, my limbs are now, it's a bit difficult to bend my joints and limbs, right? All of these things, right? Cause and effect, seeing it through that cause and effect scope, right? That is the first thing that we come to experience. Do you understand? When you have agitation in the body, agitation in the mind during your meditation, you come to realize that agitation is as a result of the inability to come into a state of balance and focus properly. You not reach a state of focus. The moment that you come into a state of balance and focus, that agitation or that lethargy or that laziness all disappears, right? That is cause and effect. Yes, Nilmane. You can unmute yourself. Okay. Now, this cause and effect, right, is not just for the day-to-day or moment-to-moment stuff. It is also to do with the fact of no soul, anatta, right? Anatta. The fact that these, from birth to birth, right, moving from birth to birth, right? Now, this is one. As a result, right, based upon this, that this is continuous cycle, right? What do we come to realize? This is according to the Four Noble Truths. Huh? The second one, which is our existence is sustained because of this karmic energy that we produce. Energy. This karmic energy. Now, do not narrow yourselves, everyone. Do not narrow yourselves. This is not just talking about karma phala as we think in a very gross manner, right? This is talking about, for example, the ahetuka chittas, the ahetuka processes. The operation of the 5 sense doors is wholly owing to karma vipaka. That's one. That is why the sensory bases work, right? That's one. Two, the first Javana Chitta, which is we do something, and the first Javana Chitta is what gives result within this very birth, right? So now we do something, or we do a series of things or actions, or the way that we behave and live our life, it creates a horrible or a pleasant life for us within this very birth, right? Karmic, coming down to this karmic potency of the sankhara formations here, it is talking about the sankharas that I cultivate lead into the sankharas that I begin to now experience. Is that clear? The karmic formations, right? So do not just think about patisandhi, right? From moment to moment, when we continue along with darshana, this is what we gain deeper and deeper understanding over, right? Deeper and deeper understanding over. To those of you who are here, who have not studied the Abhidhamma, or maybe I'm trying my level best to make it understandable for all of you, but know that we are starting intermediate classes and beginners classes, and so that you could catch up and learn these interesting things, right? So a little bit of promotions there, right? Right. Uh, okay, so now the second is life is sustained by that karmic energy, by that karmic force. Also, that karmic force is also the gati is also in there, remember, right? Gati is also in there. With that, right? With that, we go into the third one, which is karmic energy, right? The karmic energy that we create by clinging on to sense objects with tanha. We cling with tanha, no? Right? So karmic energy created by clinging to sense objects, sense objects, I'm going to remove the word sense objects here. I'm going to reword it elements. Sense elements with tanha. With tanha. Tanha is attachment. The fourth is, as we go on now we've understood the anatma, how we swing from life to life, how this existence is maintained or sustained by karmic energy, how karmic energy is created, how we fuel that process of sankhara as we cling on to the different other phenomena that arise through the sense bases, the sense elements, right? Sense elements. But we understand, now we are only talking about karma here. Then we come to now begin to realize through the path, karma is not the only thing that is aiding this process. Karma is not the only thing, right? Karma is not the only thing. Karma itself is not enough for us to keep on clinging, right? So this question comes up. To fuel entire clinging to cycle of rebirth and death. right? Rebirth and death. However, when we continue along that with the same kammatthana, we continue along that, observing, right? Then we realize tanha clings to becoming, causing becoming, causing rebirth. 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 Tanha causes, tanha clinging, right? Tanha clinging causes that rebirth. Causes that rebirth. Here, when we say tanha, now tanha is clinging. There is also, it is also inferred avijja. Avijja is also inferred, although it is not mentioned. Avijja and tanha clings. It is because of the avijja that the tanha cling. It is because of the ignorance that we cling, right? Or ignorance supports the clinging to cling on to becoming, right? That avijja, where do we in meditation begin to see? We see it from the get-go. When we are trying to control the breath with anapanasati, when we are holding on to sensations with the sensations meditation, when we cling on to comfortable postures with kaya anupassana or the such, when we are agitated by asubha bhavana, the foulness meditation, or when we find discomfort in marananusati, you see all of these things. The avijja, when we are going against the tanha, the avijja, the discomfort, that discomfort can be seen there. That discomfort is everything that goes against the avijja and the tanha, right? When the sanskaras are broken down, the discomfort arises. That is when you go into deep stages as banganyana or even udyabhanyana, your bodily functions get disrupted. Right? To a certain extent, your bowel movements, you start vomiting, you get nausea, discomfort, sweating, all of these feelings starts arising, right? Because your entire body is going against, right? That is why when for example, practicing meditation, just meditation without the Dhamma, yes, you will be able to get somewhere. However, not to this great extent that the Buddha has spoken about, because you need the Dhamma to facilitate and support your mental flora and fauna, supporting and aiding you in that practice, right? Aiding you in that practice. So avijja and tanha cling on to that becoming. Moving on, you realize what? You realize moving on, you realize the grasping of a new realm stops when tanha for that realm ceases in the mind. Viraga, right? Meaning again, sixth one, tanha or grasping. We'll use the word grasping here. Grasping for a new realm ceases when tanha for that realm ceases. This is the viraga stage. Viraga. Sorry. Viraga. Right, viraga. This culminates in sotapanna anugamika. Sotapanna, Anugamika. Sotapanna, Anugamika. Right? Sotapanna, Anugamika. What do we see here? Cause and effect, the potency of karma in our lives, how karma affects the clinging, how karma creates, how karma has a potent position in our being. However, karma is not its entirety. There's another force behind it. What is that force? Tanha and avidya, clinging to the need and requirement of becoming. Because remember, mano jivita indriya, the life faculty of mind and body, life faculty of mind and body both run on avidya pacha tanha. No. Yeah. Pacha tanha. Both run on avidya pacha tanha. That is how the life faculty continues its continuum from moment to moment. That avidya pacha, that clinging, which is a gati. This gati can only be removed by gradual progress from micchaditti coming into right, from wrong view coming into right view, from right view growing with meditational experiences, where now we take our patterns of thought and understanding through experience, where we develop a viraga, the sixth one, viraga towards this cycle of rebirth that you're constantly grasping to, knowing that there is nothing to be grasped to per se. Yes, dear.
Bhante, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I think as you explained, it became clear. My thing was at the very beginning, when because all these words are like almost synonymous, but they aren't. That at the beginning, because when we say tanha, traditionally we say tanha is craving. So if we without saying attachment, and then when it's upadana, that is when it becomes clinging and grasping. So if we keep, but as you explained, that's it how you use it. Don't use attachment at the beginning, because then the bhava comes, the becoming comes. So if we say tanha is actually craving, because when the Four Noble Truths, tanha is, it's normally traditionally said craving. I know it's the same, like similar to attachment, because then it becomes very clear. And then when that grasps or clings, that is the upadana, and then that becomes the existence, that's the bhava. And then when we go through this process, when the dispassion comes, and it becomes a viraga. So as you explained, it came in, but at the beginning I was just feeling when you use the word attachment, but if what tanha is, if you use the word craving, then but as you explained, it became very clear. So thank you very much, Bhante.
Okay, dear. Samantha.
Thank you, Bhante. Just want to clarify a few things. So I was just thinking, the reason why exactly do we crave? And I know it's to do with ignorance. So is that ignorance of not seeing impermanence, non-self and suffering, or is it because the consciousness has all the roots of the consciousnness, as Bhante used to say in the classes, Abhidhamma classes, the greed, hatred, and delusion. We've got those roots in our consciousness as we go in the samsara. We haven't purified. So I was just trying to figure out why we crave and cling, the reason behind that. And secondly, this word bhava, is that, and the realms, what does those two mean exactly, the bhava and the realms, please?
Bhava. So bhava is becoming, right? And the realms means the sensuous plane, the rupavacha planes, the arupavacha planes, those planes of existence, right?
When you say bhava is becoming, what is it becoming? What? the formation.
Becoming
Jati, birth.
having or becoming means going into or having continued births into different states of existence. Right?
Okay, formation, like.
Right. So here, sorry, what did you say?
Existence, sort of thing, forming an existence.
So look, when we say, we could use the word existence, however, craving for existence, bhava tanha, right? Now we can use the word existence, but realize, what do we crave for? What do we know to crave for? All that we know are measurements of the 5 aggregates of clinging. Measurements placed by the 5 aggregates of clinging. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, because we've got like Vedana, Sanya,
Exactly.
all this perception.
Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. We have heard from somewhere, maybe read in our books or wherever, that heaven is far more pleasurable than this, or the divine realms are far more pleasurable than this. What are we craving? You get what I mean? We crave what we understand, or something beyond what we understand, right? So we don't know how it really is, but on the assumption that I want this pleasure, right? I want to live in this bliss, or I want to be able to do this and this. I want to be able to experience this person of being. I want to be the president. I want to be born in all of these things, right? I want to be born in a beautiful country like this or that, or I want to be born into a family like this. Whatever, we find ways and modes of craving to become or be in different ways, Samantha. Right?
To be happy, I suppose.
But sometimes it's not even to be happy, but it's sometimes your own delusion. Right? It is, for example, you look at a bird, right? Who's outside, and children might say, oh, I wish I was a bird, but birds are constantly running from predators. Get what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
It can be pleasure, it can be pain, it can be motivated by anger, it can be motivated by evil, it can be motivated by lust, it can be motivated by eye, nose, tongue, body, it can be motivated by so many power, right? The way that we cling and crave is so, there are so many variations of ways that we cling on to this world. There are musicians in this world, there are doctors in this world, there are chefs in this world, there are monks in this world, there are, get what I mean?
Yeah. So it's all through the samsara, what your consciousness has grabbed, and the greed and the hatred, and what your consciousness is basically the
karmic. Your consciousness identifies with and what it thinks it wants at that point, the sankharas that you produce, the sankharas that you proliferate.
Yeah, and then because I haven't seen the anicca, and anatta, I keep on going, basically.
Well,
in a nutshell.
Even if you see anicca, dukkha, anatma to a certain extent, not if you see it to the fullest extent, of course you're enlightened, right? But even if you see it to a certain extent, what you do is you remove the potential. If you are now truly embracing the reality of things that are, right, and the truest reality of the way things are, then you remove the potential of so much of suffering from your samsaric journey just on that point. That is why when you achieve a state, even let's put aside Sotapanna, the first stage of enlightenment, it says even when you practice metta bhavana ardently, you will not go to hell.
Right.
Because you do not have the factors that need to arise within the mind, which would vibrate at a similar frequency, causing a rebirth into the woeful planes of existence, do not arise in the mind. Why? Because you have loving kindness operating in your mind day in, day out, moment to moment. Right? So these are, again, what are we coming down to? We are coming down to the first part that we spoke about in the cause and effect. See?
Yeah, and then the viraga. So until I see the viraga, that's the craving that I will
Yeah,
carry on.
because it is like, look, you have this dish in front of you. It looks absolutely horrid. It smells horrid, right? It's like you don't even know where this came from or who even made this dish, right? But without virag, what are you going to do? You're going to eat it. You're going to eat it.
Yeah.
You get what I mean, Samantha?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the more, because viraga, it's not like you have to wait and watch and these things will, and remember when to do the viraga. When you put yourself into the path of Dhamma, these things will arise, right?
Yeah,
However,
naturally,
you know
step
how
by step.
step by step it will arise. What you have to focus is on simply carrying on with the insight, right? Carrying on with the insight. But remember, one important part of that process, as we discussed in this chart, right, is you have to get rid of, you have to say no to this nonsense michadikti. You know, because people try to have everything. People are greedy. We are greedy people, right? So we want to have the cake and eat it. We want to attain nibbana, and we also want to enjoy the pleasures and the comforts and all of these things as well, right? You can't, you can have both, but you need to be focused. What is your focus? If you are in Dhamma, you will by de facto receive the best that the world and the universe has to offer, right? But we give so much of importance and make the pivot point, these pleasures and these happinesses and all of these things, which is fragile in nature. Anything which now threatens your happiness in some sort of way, it is going to cause disruption to your flow of happiness. And when something disrupts your ego, your flow of happiness, what happens? You will, the right opposite will arise: friction, hatred, aversion, all of those bad things that is going to absolutely destroy you, right? We cling on to, let us say, we are clinging on to our family so much. But the thing is, the sad reality of the nature of all things is, one day, if we have a lot of family members, we will have a lot of funerals. That is a sad reality of the world. That is, you know, and when, if we are so gung-ho on this attachment that we have, good enough, yes, as a child, as a parent, you have to love your son or you have to love your parents. That is fine, and you feel that deep love. But is that the pivot point of your life? Is that what everything in your life is about? If that is so, anything that damages or offsets that pivot point, your axis is going to now shift. Right? Your axis is going to shift. And when your axis shifts, you don't know how to operate with this new axis, because you have never even thought, your delusion did not allow you to think that this axis would shift. Now it just hasn't shifted, it has broken. Because the conditions have changed. That is what the Buddha says. The Buddha was not this monster who's this pessimistic ghoul who told, okay, look at all the bad that is going to happen. No, what the Buddha says, this world is both good, beautiful, bad, and evil. Good things happen, bad things happen. Things arise, things pass away. Why are you clinging on to these two sides? Walk in the middle path, knowing that these are the ups and downs. This is the nature of what life is. But for some, when people, as you know, noble ones, as the Buddhas, are the ones who realize that this cycle, if we think about just one life, good enough, you know, why not, if it's just one life? But in realizing this is all that we've been doing since the existence of time itself, from birth to birth, consciousness being to conscious being, if this is all that we've been doing, crying for our loved ones, illness, death, decay, old age, all of these things, if this is the constant flow that I have been going through, birth to birth, birth to birth, why in the world do I want to continue? right? That sense of insight arises when you are so attached and gung-ho about these little things that you have in your life, which is good enough. You have these things. You should feel blessed to have these things, but do not ever be deluded that you're going to have these things forever. And you are not forever as well, right? You're not forever as well. So that is where this sense of viraga comes in, not in a depressive manner or state. If anything, the Buddha is said to be a being with great compassion. How is the Buddha going to have great compassion and loving kindness if he was a depressed person, how he taught a Dhamma that was depressing? No, it is not so. It is all about that Dhammic balance. It is like, for example, the Buddha as a Bodhisattva, while he was training to attain enlightenment, he trained where? He trained in this world. He trained in this world. The world that you and I are living in. He trained here. There might be bodhisattvas among us training for their Buddhahood as well, and we don't know, right? In this world, everyone, right? So those beings prioritize their paths, although they had families and all of these, they prioritize their practice, right? They prioritize this. Prioritizing of practice and insight is very important to truly comprehend the deep insights and facilitate the deeper insight that could be developed by one in this life. Nilmani, yes? Nilma, do you have a question, Nilmani? Yes, Dil, go ahead.
Bante, please, can you tell the English word when you said Sotapatti Anugamika? I know that is not Anagami. What is the English word for
Sotapatti
Anugamika?
Anugamika means the one who is in the path to Sotapanna. Sotapanna streamlessly, Sotapanna Anugamika, the one who is within the path leading to Sotapanna.
Thank you, Bante. Thank you.
Right? All right. Any more questions? Yes, Nilmani.
It's just going back into my sort of, I'm trying to see where can I get more correct way. Say when you go into the sanya first, and that's fine. And when it comes to sort of a clinging, it goes to sanskara. Now, when that clinging comes, is it advisable, if I can be more mindful of it, the Trilakshana, to apply there? Is that the right way?
Okay.
Bante, sorry.
Yeah. So in the Paticcasamuppada, so now you're speaking about the Paticcasamuppada, can we, when the clinging arises, can we be mindful of it? Of course, you can be mindful of the clinging arising. But the thing is, there is a preliminary preparation and practice that keeps the mind, because essentially what our focus aim is not to be aware of the lobha, right? That is not the aim of this. It is to avoid the rising of lobha.
Right.
To avoid the rising of anger, right? So yes, through observing as a preliminary practice, the sila aspect helps us to cultivate the discipline of not arousing those unwholesome states of mind, or not giving way, or not prioritizing, or not being willing to sacrifice goodness for the weighty gross results of anger and all the unwholesome ones. Do you get what I mean? A shift.
Yes, Bante.
Right? So whilst that sila, the sila part supports in that aspect there.
Right. Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, so that has to be developed, and with the meditation, that will come gradually, I suppose.
It depends. For some people, even with dharma, even it depends. Because with some people, even with their faith constituting within the dhamma, for some people, they get that ability to truly go in to that sense of not developing anger and all of these things when it comes to cognizing. For some it comes through sila, for some it comes through meditation. But usually sila, samadhi, prajna, morality, concentration, wisdom, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
basically practitioners, what the Buddha says is that although the components are so well explained, that is what I love about Buddhism. It's so well explained, leaving no room for doubt. But simply what you have to do is adhere to your sila, practice the Dhamma, learn the Dhamma, practice the Dhamma, and then you will take flight. And the learning of the Dhamma helps us in our views, developing of right view, right? The sila forms the discipline foundation, which brings about samadhi of mind, right?
Yeah.
The studying of Dhamma brings about, again, it leads to samadhi. It also leads to samadhi, which further leads to samadhi. And then prajna, which helps in the suppression or the eradication of the hindrances. Yeah. As practitioners, we find the most difficult part when it comes to things that we cling with or things that we find difficult to let go of is the fact that the hindrances present itself in such a manner that we feel like we cannot go on without this, right? So when you realize, no, that is not true, this is just my hindrance speaking, that is your first step into releasing yourself from that position. Yeah.
Okay, Bhante.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you, son.
No worries. Yes, Dil. Dil, do you want to ask a question?
I'm sorry, Bhante. I don't have a question. It's very clear. Thank you.
Okay. Right. So, in the Sabbhasava Sutra, everyone, the Sabbhasava Sutra gives us a clear outline of what constitutes or what needs to be done, which would lead to the first stage of enlightenment, right? The first is Dasana Pahatabba. That is removal by vision. Clear vision, right? This is the clear understanding of impermanent suffering and non-self, right? So the understanding of anicca dukkha anatma comes to the Dhamma, right? Comes to the Dhamma and comes to the Dhamma and the practice of the Dhamma to a certain extent, right? I'm saying to a certain extent, knowing what I'm implying, right? The first is Dasana Pahatabba. The second is Samvara Pahatabba. The first is that Sammaditthi. The second is a restraint of the sense faculties, right? If you are a person who would hit another person when you get angry, definitely you have a long way to go before you can sit down for your meditation. You need to calm down, right? You're too caught up in your senses and your emotions. Relax. Get what I mean? The sense faculties, because those aggravating elements in your life, it's blurring your vision. When you have right view, you will see the strength of that right view will allow your mind to reach a state of samadhi, and maybe even, depending on the strength, maybe even overnight to abandon those bad, immoral ways of behavior and adopt moral ways of behavior, which is not for the sake of the Buddha, Dhamma, or the Sangha. It is for your own well-being and mind. When your mind is calm, when your mind is stable, when your mind is free of the hindrances, even to a certain extent, your life pattern will change, and it will change for sure. So Dasana Pahatabba, right? Removal by means of vision. The second is samvarapathabba. The third is patisevana pathabba. Patisevana pathabba, good associations. That is so important. You have to associate good friends and people who will who are into good deeds and good ways of life. If you have everything else but you do not have this sort of patisevana pahataba, it is really a rocky road, because the amount of times that we will continue to fall is so much if our associations are not good. Even if you're trying hard in the spiritual path, but you have yes. Shall I write it on the chat, Samantha? I'll write it on the chat.
Yes, please, Bhante.
Right.
And also, Bhante, just quickly, when you say angry, can you have get sort of anger with good intention?
Sorry?
Like
Anger with?
sorry, anger with good intention. Sort of like if you're telling off a child or something, for their goodness, or if you're frustrated and your body is really, really weak because someone was, really sort of like demanding, and then you couldn't cope, and it's
Sure.
not your fault, but
I mean, they do say the
you
road to
just
hell is paved in good intention, Samantha.
right. Oh, right. Okay. So yeah. All right.
which
I bear that in mind.
I bear that in mind.
Oh, that's a good one as well. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. It's all in the mind.
Absolutely. There are moments where kusala dhamma can lead to akusala dhamma in the abhidhamma as well, in the dhamma sangani, right? So good intentions can lead to bad. That is, for example, for sure, that is very much possible, right? But that is also the complexity of the world, right? And that is why people who are truly into this practice and dhamma, they see the danger of all of these things, and they separate themselves from the world to an extent where they try not to sort of proliferate further hindrances and defilements within them, which is so important. And that is also a reason why monks should stay away from politics and doing things and saying things that is not in their domain of life. So sorry about that. That was a personal remark, but and that is so important because we develop so much of bad karma. Even I was thinking about this just yesterday. The Chakravarti, the king Chakravarti, the head, the king of kings, the greatest king to walk on the face of the planet, right? The king of kings, the king of all men, respected by deities and men alike. With all of a Chakravarti is born as a result of great amount of wholesome deeds. However, so you would imagine, okay, a man of such great karmic profile, he's able to do and move anything, because he's such a great man, isn't he? But the thing is, the most interesting thing and the most beautiful thing actually is the fact that for a Chakravarti, for the universal monarch, that is what Chakravarti means, to be the universal monarch, he needs to have his, was it 8 gems? 8 or 9 or 7?
I think it's 9, Bhante.
9, right. Then the 9 gems, which is the wife, the son, the militant, the military lead, right? The elephant, the horse, the treasure, right? And the treasure, and I think there's a gem as well, right? And I might be missing a few, but the most important thing I thought, which was beautiful, was the wife, the son. You know what I mean? For the Chakravarti to be the Chakravarti, he needs to have that support and protection from his family, right? With all of the merit that he has done. And as a result of that merit, he receives those gems of protection, right? And I thought that was very beautiful in the Dhamma to mention it in such a manner, because, it's not about doing it alone, and the thing is, we are not creatures who can do all of these things alone. We are creatures who, who support one another. So Samantha, I put it on the chat. So then we have Patisevana Patappa, removal by good association. And then we have Adivasana Patappa, removable by tolerance and patience. This is a very, this one is so good, because if you tell yourself, oh, I have a very short temper, I cannot bear this or that, that is definitely going to put you on the short wicket. For yourself, of course. You tell yourself, I'm going to have a boundless sense of patience, right? Boundless sense of patience that will raise, just with the thought itself, it will raise your patience and tolerance to such a great extent. Even in your meditation, you tell yourself, right, I'm not going to give in to these pains and all of these things. Your tolerance for pain or whatever it is that you come to experience during your meditation will increase substantially, right? Adivasana Patappa. Then we have Paribhajana Patappa, right? Paribhajana Patappa is staying away from bad environments and influences, right? Staying away from bad environments and influences, which is again something that could risk your life and way of life or thought, or the way that you lead your practice, all of that. Staying away from those sorts of places and being in places that you can practice, right? So this could also mean, your home environment. It could mean your home environment. It could mean the places that you socialize and all of these things. It could mean a lot of things, right? Then Vinodana Patappa, removal by way of getting rid of certain things. Certain things. Certain things meaning, right? Getting rid of certain immoral thoughts that comes to your mind, right? Excessive sense, sort of running behind sort of sensory pleasures that are excessive in nature, right? Hate, right? You specifically say, I don't want to experience this hate. I don't want to experience these mental attributes there, right? And then Bhavana Patappa, removal by meditation, right? Through the meditation practice. That is the foundation. So special attention must be given to both the first one and the last one. First one and the last one would be the most important, because if you do not have clear vision, the path is not going to be very easy. And also there will be no path, to be very frank. If there is no clear vision, there would be no path. Is that clear, everyone? Does that make sense? Yeah? Any questions? So when it comes to the practice of nekkhamma, this is where then we go on to say, when it comes to, let us say, nekkhamma, certain things, getting rid of certain things, nekkhamma. Getting rid of certain things, realizing that certain things are causing you harm and disruption in your life, nekkhamma. Getting rid of bad friends or people who create bad experiences for you from akusala, right? Because maybe it is not the fact that, the people are per se bad or there is no good in them. But the thing is, maybe it is the fact that we are weak or too weak to handle those, or to maneuver ourselves through those relationships without getting entangled in the crossfire, right? When it comes to restraint of sense faculties, again, nekkhamma is there, everyone, right? Nekkhamma is there. So we find that nekkhamma is something that is interwoven to each and can be interwoven to each and every part of our being and practice. And when we do have it, we find it easier for us to let go of those things that cause us suffering and to engage with the path of practice that is conducive and culminating in enlightenment. And if we understand anything at all through the lives that we have, even if we do not believe in past lives, right? If we don't believe in past lives, if we truly observe the things that we have and the things that we go through, we realize, because of the fact of not letting go, right? How much time we waste. And I realize, people asking us monks, Bhante, how do you have so much time for this and that and, doing all of these things? It is actually because we are celibate. It is actually because we mind our own business. I mean, at least the good ones do. We mind our own business. We do not entangle ourselves in the business of other people. We only get involved in other people's affairs if we are requested to do so, to offer some sort of help. We are celibate. We do not entangle ourselves in unnecessary relationships, right? Just imagine, I mean, you would know for yourselves when you all were younger as well, relationships are very, very time consuming. Relationships are very time consuming. And especially if you're trying to develop a romantic relationship, or if that is the first thing that is, I mean, you would see young kids now, how much of time they waste on the fact of trying to find a partner, right? We do not do any of that. Hence, the mind has such clarity and ability to do and accomplish so much, right? And recently I've been hearing actually this notion of monk mode, right? Which is quite fun. It's called monk mode, right? Businessmen talk about this now, where they decide no sex, no relationships, no partying, no nothing, right? No drugs, no alcohol, none of that. Simply work. Put your head down, focus on what you want, and work. They call it monk mode, right? And I hear a lot of people on YouTube, all of that, speaking about the benefits and how it just puts you into flow state beyond any other. And that is absolutely true. When you are engulfed with the hindrances and you're allowing all of these externalities to get to you and you're losing focus and all of these things, the spiritual path can become quite difficult. But the thing is, if your spiritual path, if your main objective is the spiritual path and the attainment itself, I mean, let's forget about the spiritual path, the attainment, then you would find that everything that you experience in your life, go through in your life, your grandchildren, and all the pleasures that you have are unified into this process of attaining enlightenment. So you start loving in different ways, you start caring in different ways, you start being a person that with every day you work towards enlightenment. And I could say, with everything that I personally would do, because of my keen interest in teaching and of course learning the Dhamma and interest in the Dhamma, I would say every single day I'm making such substantial growth in my learning and understanding towards the Dhamma. And some might, people who do not understand or even know what we're talking about might say we are wasting our time. We are not, right? Every single day, with every sutra that we read or meditation or whatever it is, this is absolutely, this is like divine food, far better, right? So allow yourself to completely embrace that sense of Dhamma in such a beautiful way that you realize this Dhamma can absolutely be worked into each and everything. But most importantly, be authentic, right? Because if you are fooling yourself and telling yourself, okay, I am authentic, but when you're really not, right? That's really good. You're literally shooting yourself in the foot. Don't be afraid to challenge yourself and call yourself out, right? Call yourself out. And certain changes to your life, you realize how deeply they will affect your well-being and your practice, right? And I think now with social media and all of these things, social media is a great encumbrance to a lot of people, right? Even the simple thing of, let us say, sharing memes and all of these things that come through our WhatsApp. I mean, we are all in a million WhatsApp groups. And how many things do we get on the daily? If we are to really go through all those WhatsApp messages, I have more than 100 on my phone which are unopened, which I get complaints all the time. But still, literally. And but if you are to continue, let us say, everything that I get, I'm thinking of who to share and all of these things. Look, what are we doing? You're wasting so much of time in that sense, in that regard, when we could be doing something that is far more better in the sense of far more fruitful. Right? This is a path of practice. No one forced you to be here. No one forced you to take up the path of practice. This was your own decision. If you're doing this for yourself, and if this was your own decision, there are no children here, right? Do it in an authentic manner and fashion. Meditate. Be authentic to yourself. Embrace the Dhamma as much as you possibly can, and try to understand it and practically apply it to your everyday life. Okay. Now, right now, we have actually missed our meditation. So maybe we've missed our meditation, but that's okay. We will go into our afternoon break and we will resume in the evening. All right. So, any questions, anyone, before we depart?
Bante,
Yes.
just very quickly, I was just going to say the purpose of you when you said about the explaining about the this not being attached as a monk and all those things as a bhikkhuni or whatever, is that so that one could develop unconditional love? Is easier that way.
Honestly, Samantha, I think it's not only for that, but as a result, you do have that sense of uh, sense of I won't say unconditional love, but I
True
would
love.
say true love.
Oh no, true love. Oh, no, not in that way. I mean, for everyone in the universe. Sorry, I'm digging a
Well,
hole here.
Samantha, to be very honest with you, I am a monk, and I do a bit of meditation. And even during the time that I was in the Aranya, I did not have love for everyone. And that is the honest truth. And the thing is, we should not mix ourselves. Let's be real about it, right? And this is usually the thing. Of course, we are not talking about pretenses here. But the thing is, having love for everyone, Samantha, is something that people like the Buddhas have, which is sadhu sadhu. But however, normal people do not, our practice is not on the developing of love for everyone, right? Our practice is in the culmination of insight, and with that grounding and insight, we get rid of those aspects of our being which has friction with people, right? So we are able to treat people equally. We are able to understand people for their sorrows and sadnesses in life, right? Sorrows and sadnesses in life. I think throughout my monastic time in the monastery, I have never really come across a person who would say that they have love for everyone. I mean, that's a little bit of a, I would say, that is not really what we are trying to get. I mean, that's a little bit like something Mother Mary would say, or, I don't know. It's really not what
Maybe
we.
metta. Maybe I meant metta would have been better.
Metta, Samantha, metta is different to having love for everyone.
Sorry, that's what I meant. Metta, maybe
Okay.
unconditional.
Okay.
Yeah.
So having metta, having a heart of metta, right, allows you to not develop any animosity or negativity, and you just live every moment with metta. But we do not sort of, it's not like the for example, like the Mahakaruna Samapatti, which is actually a very Buddha, and it's a very Buddha practice. It's a practice that the Buddhas do, not really the monks, right? Because the Buddhas, they get up in the morning and with their great compassion, they look at who they can enlighten, right? Who they can enlighten through the course of the day. But for the monks with metta, it is when you are a person who has metta in their hearts, when you cultivated metta, you, for each and every person, even nature and animals, you have that sense of loving kindness. Right? That is what your practice is. Your practice is not hate. You do not subscribe to the emotions of hate. You do not subscribe to backbiting. You do not subscribe to hurting people and enjoying the hurt of people. That is metta. That sense of loving kindness that you have, where you develop that understanding towards all beings for whatever situations or whatever it is that they might be. Yeah.
Yes, and that will come as you meditate. To
Absolutely.
byproduct of
And because Samantha, you know, if a monk, and I'm telling you just because it came up, if a monk ever speaks in a manner that he has Karuna, right, we do look down on him, right? We do look down on him because it is most likely a upaklesha or a powerful hindrance that is coming up at that moment, because that is not something that is easily or that is not something that is cultivated in that sense, right? Because you know, there was this Thai monk. Okay, this is a funny story, but there was this Thai monk, and I was with him in Colombo. And during this time, I had this sort of, you know, I was into sort of social service and stuff like that, right? For a little period, and he was like, oh, he was like, oh, so you might be having. He knew what I was doing, so. And he was in the other room, I was in this room, and he was such a lovely person. He was an American monk, and he was in the Aranya. He was like, oh, so you must be having a Mahakaruna, isn't it? I was like, I looked at him and I was like, Bante, why do you say that? If you are giving up on the deeper teachings to help people with their problems, that is a great amount of compassion. And I was like, oh my God. You get what he meant, right? He's like, you're giving up the great teachings to do social service? Like, you must be having great compassion. And I like felt the tokka right on my head, right? And actually, he actually, with that, I actually stopped and I went back to Burma. And which is absolutely true. It was a hindrance. It was absolutely a hindrance. And I think on the same trip or another trip following that, I knew that this was my time not to stop going to Sri Lanka, when one of my devotees was like, oh, Bhante, maybe you should contest for a seat and we will help you. And at that point, I knew I needed to go back. So these hindrances can manifest in so many different ways. So anyways, everyone, I'll see you all in the evening. Have a lovely rest of lovely evening, afternoon break. I will see you soon. If you do have any questions, please do bring them along for the evening session. Take care.
Sorry, what time is that, Bante? 6 o'clock, is it?
Is it 6? Hold on, let me see. Oh, it is 6. Okay. Yes,
Yeah.
6. Okay, bye.